I hope y'all can hear this.
Know you hate when I come around. Yeah. Don't you hate when I come around? Yeah. Always wanna see a nigga down. Yeah. I just wanna floss, get my shine on, get my rhyme on. Fulfilling my dreams and my goals, I got my eyes on. Frequency lit, I'm talking high tones. Only ascended masters in the mind zone. No fakes and no phonies and what they do for the money. I wake up in the morning, I hear my prayer, I'm on it. My affirmations is elevating. You hating cause I'm trying to make it. All the hell of wisdom, assalamu alaikum. Feeling like a Acadian, whipping in Arcadia. Came up around playing pimps and hustlers. Factoria customers, now they wanna fuck with us. King, get your money up. Duck if you running up. Left jab, right hook, watch for the uppercut. Punchline, rappers ain't hard enough. Lunchtime easy, let the clip off, and he's steaming. Tormented mentality, hear him screaming. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Know you hate when I come around.
I hope y'all can hear this. Ain't nobody in the building, but we gonna get into it like somebody in the building.
Know you hate when I come around. Flipping through my book of rhymes. Let's take a look inside. Flip through the pages and you can see the light shine. How you stay in your right mind. Work going on outside. Still humbling me all at the same time. So God to the fullest degree. I'm on the right path. Fully aware of the oppositions. Talking to angels, making propositions. Without a pot to piss and hard to make the right decisions. What is this life we living? See the trifling can make you sickening, tripping. Is you really paying attention? Work going on, I can feel it in my soul. They don't wanna see me shine, but I still got glow. They wanna yell Geronimo. But higher and higher is where I gotta go. I'm talking different octaves, shatter a hole in all your chakras, rapping imposters. I'm thinking business like a mobster, fucking monster. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Know you hate when I come around. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Know you hate when I come around.
Let me take these off. Yes, 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 yes. All right, all right, all right. Yes, 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 yes. So, it's been a while since I went live, and it's been a while since I went live, and I'm having no viewers right now at this particular point. But I'm not gonna be too long, anyways. Um, I just got a few things I really want to talk about. This video is really a response to something that I heard, and it's not really too serious, but I do want to respond to it. I'm not gonna say what the video is because the person got way bigger following than me, and I don't want it to look like I'm trolling or anything such as that in that nature. But I do want to put it out in the universe. So I've been preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching on this channel, and it's a common thread. It's a common thread, that I just been preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching. And one of those things are the misrepresentation of ancient Kemet. The misrepresentation of ancient Kemet is crazy. And you know, there's been like a big smear campaign, as it pertains to ancient Egypt, like a big smear campaign to discredit and to dethrone, you know, ancient Kemet. And it's basically all because, for the most part,
Unknown caller. Unknown caller.
it's basically because, for the most part, There are some people who want to keep you away from this knowledge, keep you away from this information, because a lot of things will open up once you begin to study this information. You begin to understand a lot of origins of things when you begin to study this information. And so, that's for the most part. And for the second part is probably the religious psychopath. Religions is indoctrinations. And if a religion is not um taught correctly in this day and time, then it can be very dangerous, you know. So when you're talking about religions, when you're talking about religions, you're talking about for the most part things that's make believe, it's mythology. But in mythology, there are internal truths. Okay, there are internal truths inside the mythologies. Sometimes you have real things intertwined with the mythology, but for the most part, it's a mythology. All right, it's make believe, but these stories are sacred teachings and doors and gateways to higher levels of knowledge and higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of spirituality. All right, but if you are just getting the information from the mundane aspect of it, then you totally gonna miss the point, and you really is just gonna be, off with it. So this is the thing, because I'm not really here to bash nothing. I'm really just all about truth, and I'm really just all about real education. So I'm not here to bash a religion. I'm not here to um take anybody away from their beliefs or anything like that. That's not what I'm here to do. But I am here to educate to the best of my ability. So, you know, religions have great moral codes and moral standards. Great moral code and great moral standards. And, this is something that's very needed in society. All right. But of the religion is the downside of the religion is it wants to keep you away or separate you from other people. Religion is today's religions, all right, divides and separates people. Today's religions divides and separates people. If you look into ancient doctrines or ancient religions, you will see it's pretty much universal. And um, in ancient religions, you will see a common thread amongst indigenous nations, all over the world. You will see a common thread. And this common thread, you will see different energies, um, different personalities of the Godhead. And these different energies and different personalities of the Godhead was basically misconstrued as polytheism or paganism. But these are simply the one and only true energy that manifests itself down in different frequencies and different realms in different realms of existence, and manifests itself in different ways. And you can see this taking place um inside of Jewish mysticism, what's called Kabbalah or the orator or the tradition. what's called the Sephiroth, and you will see Keter or Kether, which is the crown at the top, was also known as um, unlimited light. Okay, the Ain Soft ore, and it moves down to Chachma and to Bina and to wisdom and to understanding. Okay, and then you see that this energy manifests itself all the way down until you get Melkuth, the kingdom, which is the physical realm, the physical existence. And this is also explained more, um, you know, in the teaching inside of Kabbalah, which is the first time that I came across it, was in the Sefer Yetzirah, and which is usually called the four worlds, which is uh I forget them. What is the four worlds? I forget the first one. I know Bria is the second one. But you got four worlds, there's four levels of existence, and each world, the higher is the more is a higher frequency, and down lower is is a you get to a more gross physical nature. All right. So I brought that up to say what? Your ancient sages, you have ancient sages, and these, if you don't know what a sage is, these are learnt men or women in a particular school of thought. And these will be your most intelligent people at that particular time. Most of these people were mystics, even though they belonged to a religion, they wasn't religious. See, sometimes the religion is just the order of the day, and this is basically a government that's bigger than you. And so you are a part of it whether you like it or not, and it's just the order of the day, and you in it. But just like it say in the Bible, live in this world and not of this world. So you have ancient sages in in all of these modern religions, and Christianity is ancient sages of Christianity. You got ancient sages of the Judaism, you know, doctrine. You got ancient sages of the Islamic doctrine. All right. And I say that to say what? I say that to say that all of these people study ancient Kemet, because ancient Kemet is the source of enlightenment, whether you like it or not. All right. So it's laughable. It's laughable when people down talk ancient Kemet. Is very laughable, because um it shows you that you don't you're not very learned. You're not very learned in history. You're not very well learned, you know, of the situation of the matter. And so one thing you got to know too is that ancient Egypt is a lot older than what it's said to be. And you got to understand that modern religions is a lot younger than what it's perceived to be. So those are two things that's very necessary to understand. So when you're looking at ancient Egypt and you want to criticize that which you see, you have to understand that this is something very ancient. It's something very ancient. And to live in today's time and then to criticize with a today's mind, with today's eyes of something thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, it's very laughable. It's very laughable. That's like that's like having today's perception of video games, and this may not be a good example, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna tell you why it may not be a good example. That's like having a knowledge of today's video game of today, and then looking at Atari and saying, "Wow, that video game is whack." All right, but why that's not a good example is because that example could give the impression that today's mind is more evolved than yesterday's mind, and that's so far from the truth. That's so far from the truth. The ancient Egyptians were very advanced. They was very advanced, especially in mathematics. You're talking about you're talking about mastery at its highest level. And see, these things are rarely talked about. You know, these things are rarely talked about. But what you do hear, you hear people um misrepresent, ancient Kemet, and it's just to keep you away from it. I heard a guy talking about how, one of the deities was a hermaphrodite, and this is the origin of, some alternative form of sexuality. Like, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. Ancient Egypt, you know taught through pictorial images, which is at its highest level. And also, also it was passed down through the Hebrew tradition. So don't be foolish. Don't be foolish enough to think that the priesthood of the Essenes and the priesthood of what's called the Hebrew doctrine didn't sit at the feet of the great masters. When the time has come, there is a change in the teachings. There is a change in the doctrine when you're dealing with different people and things of that nature. But what you must understand, that inside of that change is the eternal truth that was still passed down from those that came before. So you have to understand that. You have to understand that. And you talking about things thousands of years ago. You're talking about things that happened over a course of thousands of years and things of that nature. So a lot of time things get bundled up and it really doesn't get explained the way it should be. Um, but it's really the truth. Egypt is the light of the world. And now it's been stories about societies that existed before ancient Kemet. You have the Atlantean theory, which I don't like all that much. All right, but it's all right. I'm cool with it at this particular day and age. I'm cool with it. But I really don't like the Atlantean theory all that much because it's a theory. Um, and I don't like theories as it pertains to history. And you know, the Atlantis thing was something that was spoke about, uh, by one of the Greek philosophers. I forget which one, maybe Aristotle, maybe Plato, one of those guys. They spoke about it. supposed to be an island, somewhere that got wiped out through some type of natural disaster, and the people on that island was very involved human beings. But um so yeah, the knowledge is passed down. And it's very laughable, when people are in these religions and they don't understand that they're still, even with their hate and disgust for the ancient world, they are still borrowing from the ancient world, whether they know it or not. And that's just the absolute truth. And that's what I just really, really try to get people to understand. That's what I really try to get people to understand. And so people hating people, people from different sides of the world going to war, these things are not new. And so you have you have the Asiatic side of the world, going to war, with, I guess, what you could call the African side of the world. Ancient Egypt and Asiatics, they was battling for forever since the beginning of time. I bet that's whack if that's all in the mic real loud. So so you can see this take place, and you can see how the hate was transferred in the later doctrines, of these people. All right, because you got to understand, these people that you're calling Hebrews, these people that you're calling Israelites, or the founders of this doctrine, or the co-founders of this doctrine, however you want to slice it, they come from that lineage, of those, of those Asiatics. They come from that lineage. And it could get interesting too, because both of these sides of the world, they traded with each other. They wasn't always fighting. They wasn't always not getting along. They traded with each other back and forth. They traded ideas. They traded religious ideas. So you just kind of gotta study to really get an understanding of what's really going on. But a lot of times, people out here really just don't know what they're talking about because they don't study history. You got to really study the history behind this stuff to really know what's going on. You really got to study the history behind this stuff to really know what's going on. And it's one more point I wanted to touch on before I got up out of here. What was that point? It was one more thing. What was it? What was it? What was it? What was it? It was one more thing I wanted to talk about before I got up out of here. Ah, it left me. It left me. Maybe it'll come back. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll come back. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll come back. I'm not sure. So, you know, um, ancient Egypt has been very misrepresented. And you know what? And you see a lot of um alternative sexuality being placed on ancient Egypt. And I really don't know why that is. I really don't. Because, I came to this planet loving ancient Egypt. I mean, I've been studying it all my life. I've been studying all my life. And the only time in all of my research and studying, the only time that I seen anything of an alternative sexual nature was um was Heru battling with Set. And Set at this particular time, he was what you would call a evil person or a evil deity. He was backwards. He was everything the opposite of righteousness. All right. So he was the opposite of what Heru represented. He was the opposite. He was the opposite of Osiris. And it was some things about, and another thing about Egypt too is things changed over time. So you got to look at the time frame, when certain stories supposedly was documented. You got to look at the time frame because you got a lot of people coming in and out of Egypt, so you kind of got to look who might have their hands on anything, you know. So you got to look at, what time period too. The time period and when you study ancient Egypt is important too. You got to look at the time period and who's involved with that time period. But anyways, it was Heru battling with Set. And and Heru, Set tried to do some, I heard about that. I didn't even see the document, but I know I read about that somewhere. But yeah, Set tried to do, some crazy stuff, some alternative sexual nature type things. And that was the only case scenario that I ever seen anything like that. Now the other case scenario would be, oh, and I just remembered that last point I wanted to hit. And the other case scenario would be you have, I believe it's Ptah, who was a creator deity. And since he was alone and he didn't have a counterpart, it was said that he, I hope I'm using the correct word, copilated. I know I massacred that. All right. He wow. We just gonna say the word. He masturbated. All right. And through that act is how he created from himself. All right. And through that act, he created other deities, and other deities created, and then you get that same hierarchy that you see in the Gnostic system. You get that same hierarchy that you see in side of Kabbalah with the Sephiroth. You see that same hierarchy system that's created from the upper all the way down to the lower, as above so below type of thing, if you will. All right. So you got to understand that, ancient Egypt is a science. Ancient Kemet is a science. And, these people were very, very intelligent. And mysteries and things of that nature are still being uncovered. A good person to read on ancient Egypt that I've found is Swaller D. Lupez, because he talks about the power of and I got to shut this down. And he talks about the power of the hieroglyphics and the images, in the images, how it creates a knowing inside, of the person. It creates a knowing through the images. It's not spoke. It's not something that somebody has to tell you. It evokes a knowing. And the last thing I wanted to drive home is that the hermaphrodite thing is that, these are things that's been passed down to today's religion. And so when somebody talks about that, it's very laughable. So if you're talking about a creator deity being hermaphrodite, that's showing that this deity is above the realm of the physical human nature. And when it creates itself and then when it moves into lower realms of reality, that's when a gender is created. So it's in a place where gender don't exist. But when it moves and creates itself down into lower physical realms, then you get gender. All right. And you even see that teaching inside of the Zohar, inside of the tradition, inside of the Jewish mysticism, inside of that tradition. You see that inside of the Zohar because it was said that Adam, all right, didn't have gender, and he split into two with Eve. And that's why man isn't whole until he find his counterpart, because the one was split into two. And so the two must become one again. All right. So you can see that teaching still inside, still inside of, you know, what you would call the Jewish or the Judaism or the Israelite doctrine. Okay. So Adam was what you would call a hermaphrodite. Okay. And so that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap it up. Don't be a religious psychopath. Religious people, oh, I got to go. Religious people aren't intelligent enough to respect other people's beliefs. And they believe that their belief is the only belief and everybody else's is wrong. That's a religious psychopath. And so religions are okay until you think like that. And then when you think like that, then religions are not okay. And religions become very dangerous. And that's when it becomes to separate people. So me myself personally, I guess, for a lack of better words, what they say, eat the meat and spit the bones. you know but me personally, I'm intrigued by the esoteric knowledge because I know that the people that wrote this wrote it for people like me. They wrote it for people like me that's going to read these things and see something totally different than what the average person is going to get from it from the mundane level. It's two stories taking place. Okay, it's two stories taking place. And so yes, religions are very good from a moral standpoint. I will never take that away. But it's higher levels of understanding when it comes to this stuff. And a lot of people just don't have it. And I'm gonna shut down because I gotta go. Peace. Um, thumb up the video, show some support, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Peace. I wonder if y'all can hear this. Let me see something. I'm not sure. But yeah, we out. Peace.